How you going, guys? My name is Jordan. I'm one of the coaches here at Vector Health, and today we are talking self-release techniques. So self-release techniques can involve foam rollers, trigger point balls and Swiss balls. So why would we use these techniques? To increase blood flow, warm up the muscle, increase range of motion and overall mobility of the joint. What is self-release techniques? Self-release techniques are used for basically self-massage. They increase blood flow, warm up the muscles, and can enhance in increasing range of motion. So there's a few ways we can do this. You could use foam rollers. Generally, foam rollers are to warm up the muscle, release a little bit of fascia. Then we've got trigger point balls, usually used for getting into those itty-gritty spots, so like within the pec, lats, hips, glutes and whatnot. And then we have the Swiss ball. The Swiss ball is more so used for maybe posture imbalances, so maybe if you're sitting in flexion all day, a Swiss ball could be used to put yourself back into extension. Alrighty, so who would use self-release techniques and when would they use them? So I would probably put these into three categories. So our first category of people would be the guys that have come into the gym, they've started their strength training journey using self-release techniques pre and post workout, and that's just what works for them through their training. Then you've got a second category of people that come in and say they'd only use self-release techniques every now and then. So say if they had a game of rugby league on the weekend and they had training on Monday, they'd use self-release techniques to get them back into the groove of training for the week. And then you've got the third category of people who have never used self-release techniques before and just see no benefit to them. Or they can release themselves through, say if they had a squat session, they can come in and just go through a squat pattern and that will basically self-release them. So when we use these self-release techniques, so you can use them prior to a session. So some people like to roll self-release before a session because it just gets them into the groove. Generally you can do them post-session. To some coaches like to say it switches off the muscle. So say if you walked out of the gym and you didn't self-release and you just got straight in your car, the muscle doesn't know if it's still working out or not. So that's why some coaches like to prescribe self-release after sessions. And then the other time that I would probably say you would use these techniques would be in a recovery session, so when you're not training and you're just stretching, self-releasing. Alright, so now we're going to go through how to use these techniques. Alrighty, so first up we have foam rolling. So this type of self-release technique I would usually prescribe to the quads, hamstrings or calves. So generally you could work for 30 to 60 seconds on each one. So going under the hamstring, applying a little bit of pressure onto the muscle and just working back and forth, trying to get a little bit of flow within the muscle. And then obviously you go the same for the calf, and then you just flip over to work the quads. Our next self-release technique is our trigger pointing. So for our trigger pointing, we would usually use these to get into the little itty-gritty spots, like within the hips, the pecs, or within the lats. So within the hips, you could spend, same as foam rolling, anywhere between 30-40 seconds on each position, depending how sore you are and what condition the muscle is in. So you can change up the position, so you get a little bit of external rotation of the hip underneath the glute. Just trying to improve range of motion. And our last one, so we have the Swiss ball. So I like to prescribe the Swiss ball to anywhere to do with the back, so releasing through the back. I like to use the Swiss ball just because it can take a little bit of impact and it can be a little bit more comfortable for my clients. So from here, if I want to go that again actually. Alrighty, so lastly we have the Swiss ball. So I usually like to prescribe the Swiss ball to clients if they've got a little bit of flexion within the back, so if they've been seated all day and they work an office job or whatnot. I like to get them on a Swiss ball just to improve their posture, getting them on the Swiss ball and just putting their spine into that opposite direction to what it's been sitting in all day pretty much. And they could lay here for anywhere between 1 to 5 minutes of just belly breathing, nice and calm. Alright, then you could even go into stretching out the lats from here, from side to side. Alright. The only reason I prescribe the Swiss ball over the back instead of a foam roller is just it provides a little bit more support. Foam roller can be sometimes a little bit harder and can be a little bit uncomfortable, so that's the reason why I'd use the Swiss ball. There you go guys, that is my overview on self-release techniques. So in conclusion, it's from person to person. If you've been using foam rolling for your whole life, keep using it if it's working. If you haven't used it before and you want to learn a little bit more information, come on down, ask one of the coaches, and we'll sort you out. Thanks guys.